So, Toby, just tell me how players go about preparing to face quick bowling.
I think the first thing when you talk about playing real pace bowling is not having a fear of injury, making sure that there's an element of guts and fight in you, and that you're wearing the right equipment. You know, don't be afraid to be wearing your helmet and your arm pad and your chest pad. Don't worry about what people think. You've got to be confident to get behind the ball, and appreciate that, you know, it's a tough game, it's a hard ball, you're going to get the odd knock, and if you want to do it for a living, you've got to be prepared for that.
Would you in any way change a player's technique to face quick bowling?
I think when you're playing quick bowling, it's about judgment and practice where you're working off shorter distances, and you might be using tape ball on hard surfaces that create real pace. I think that's really good to get, especially with younger players, to get used to speed. And then when you go back off 22 yards, it seems like a long distance, and it seems like you've got a lot more time. And again, if you get hit, it doesn't really matter, and you can progress from that to a harder ball. I think anything that really improves reactions, you know, turn things up to a maximum in practice. So when you then get into a game situation, everything seems a little bit easier. Playing pace, you'll have players who have little trigger movements, that little movement at delivery of the ball that helps you get moving quickly forward or back to the appropriate position once you've decided what shot you're going to play. But it's all about reactions, it's about guts, and it's about being quick on your feet.
When we're working with young players, often some people haven't faced really quick bowling, and then they suddenly come up against a very fast bowler. How do you think players should mentally prepare for that challenge?
I think it's practicing against it as much as possible, getting on a bowling machine and turning the speed up. You get used to pace. If you've got good technique, I think speed is one thing where if you're doing it day in, day out, you almost don't think about it. You know, the professional players, one quick bowler is the same as another once you get used to it. And I'm a big fan of young players being exposed to it, not in the sense of, you know, that they're going to be injured or whatever, or have fear for the game, but that they're tested a little bit. And as I said before, if you do that with a type of ball that isn't going to cause injury or harm, they just get used to speed. And I think that's the way forward for them.
Obviously, opening batters are pretty much the first people out to go and face the quickest bowlers. Do the opening batters prepare any differently? Is their game different to a middle order batter in playing pace?
Certainly as an opening batter, I think you've got one of the toughest jobs in the game. The ball is rock hard. It's going to bounce that bit more, it's going to hurt a bit more if you do get hit, and it's going to swing. Bowlers are at their freshest and the fielders are awake and alert. So, you know, from that point of view, it's a tough job, but you've also got quite attacking fields, and I think the mentality from a batting point of view is there's more gaps. Actually, I can score a bit. And if I just get bat on the ball, it's going to race away because it is hard and it's new and it's coming on quicker. Your middle order guys, there might not be the same type of pace on it, but they're having to add pace into the ball. So I think the mental side for a lot of opening batters is some cope with. It's how you cope with whether you're going to be the first player out. It wasn't the thing I particularly liked. I prefer going in at 3 when there was a wicket down. I always felt a little bit more comfortable going in at 3. But some people love to be the first one out. They want to get on with the game and take them on.
Going back a few years, there was great scenes of Atherton facing Donald and the confrontation between quick bowler and opening batter. Who would you say in this moment in time is probably the best player of pace bowling?
It's difficult to say. I mean, I think there are different types of opening batters. I mean, you know, Marcus Trescott, I think he's not playing for England anymore, but he's still a fine player. I think he was the #1 player in the country this year as an opening batter. Very aggressive, looks to dominate. You mentioned Atherton. Atherton was someone who great concentration, no fear, would get behind the ball, happy to get in a bit of a fight with the bowler. So I think it takes all sorts. Geoffrey Boycott, going back a few years, would bat all day and was a tough sort of technical opening batter. I think the changes in the modern game now with so much one-day cricket, all batters are becoming a bit more positive, and I think you're finding that in four-day cricket and 5-day cricket, the opening batters are generally a bit more attacking, and we're scoring at higher rates.
What do you like to see as an approach to playing spin bowling?
I think you've got to be positive against spin. There's no doubt that the best players of spin are the Asian players because they're brought up on it and they're brought up on wickets that turn. And certainly looking at some of the guys who've toured in those type of countries, India, Sri Lanka, young players especially go over and really struggle on those wickets because they're not used to that type of surface. We're used to green seamers here that nip around, and I think with the Asians it's about getting the bat out in front of the pad, so they're never getting caught tight in here where you can give catches to short leg and silly point. So they've got good technique against spin, but they're positive against it. Your Tendulkar would sweep and use his feet, and they're all brought up to attack. And I think if we can learn anything, it's to do that, and it's also probably to practice on that type of wicket. Rough up some practice pitches. I've mentioned Tendulkar, and it was one of the series years ago when he toured Australia and he was playing against Shane Warne. And before he went, he really wanted to prepare. So what he did, he got some old pitches and just completely roughed them up with his studs. So it was maximum turn. So he practiced on the type of surface he was going to get out of. And then when he went to Australia and Warne was on him, and he was at his peak at that time, spinning the ball big, and Tendulkar really got the better of him. But it was proper practice. It was specific to what he was going to get, and it was a positive approach, and it really worked.
More often than not in today's game, you see a wide variety of different shots played to the spinner. Should everybody be trying to reverse sweep a spinner?
I don't think they should. I think what you've seen is the game has changed so much with the advent of 2020 cricket, where there's such a much greater element of risk-taking now to score big runs. And there's all the little funky shots, as you say, little reverse sweeps and slog sweeps and whatever. Because the game's changing, I think young players should practice them. If you practice it and you've got the skill, then it's in your armoury. If you do need 8 or 10 and over in a certain match, you're taking a shot out, or you can try a shot that you've actually practiced. So I certainly would recommend young players giving these things a go in practice. The key thing is, when do you use it in a match? And there's nothing worse than a player turning to something that's a big risk shot at a time when the team doesn't need it and he doesn't need it. So that's all about shot selection.
In the old days, a spinner used to be seen as the bowler that batters could really get after and try and hit. Today, in sort of 2020 cricket, spinners tend to be the more successful bowlers in terms of economy and taking wickets.
Absolutely, and I look back to, with Middlesex a couple of years ago when we won the 2020, and we had two fine spinners in Sean Udall and Murali Kartik, international bowlers, and taking the pace off, as you said, caused havoc for other teams. We were able to get through 8 overs in the middle of the 20-over game where we were going at no more than 5 or 6 and over, and sides generally never got big scores against us. The reason for it, I think, if there's consistency and there's no pace on the ball, batters try to create that speed, and it's hard. If you're playing on big boundaries and well-set fields with good fielders, it's not always easy to score at 7, 8 and over. The quicker bowlers in the 2020 tend to fly because the pace of the ball, naturally, little outside edges and inside edges, it's hard to stop that, and the ball can fly anywhere. But good spinners are worth their weight in gold in the shorter format of the game.
What things would you advise as a high-level coach for preparing to bat?
I think it's very specific to the individuals. If you take the day of a game, some batters literally just want to have a few throwdowns. They just want to feel the bat on the ball. They might, they've been playing a lot of cricket and will have had a lot of nets, and they literally just want to feel bat on ball. Other batters, and Andrew Strauss is a prime example, the England captain, generally likes to net. He'll want to face, 70, 80 mile an hour bowlers to tune himself for what he's going to get out in the middle. I was always someone who loved a net. If there was a net there, I'd like a net to give me confidence before going into the middle. But everyone is different. Owen Morgan in the England side at the moment goes in, has his little throwdowns, very happy with that. And I think as a coach, you've got to respect that people want to prepare in different ways. I think also in a coaching thing, once the season is up and running, you're not going to do a huge amount of technical changes with players. It's more of the psychology of the game, it's keeping people confident, and just talking about tactics. I think the real nuts and bolts technical changing is done in the indoor schools in the winter, and that's when you can try new things and just sort of develop your game. But I think once the season's up and running, it's a ticking over type of thing. I've got fairly strong views on the bowling machine. I think the bowling machines are fantastic, but they've got to be used well. And I do see quite a few players going on and hitting shots they're very good at. Front foot cover drive, which creates a lot of problems in their game. So I think with bowling machines, use them, but mix up lines and lengths so you're not becoming predictable in your movements, because they're often the things that cause you problems when you face bowlers. Bowlers are unpredictable, so don't practice to something that becomes very predictable.
How important do you think fitness is for batting?
fitness is crucial because, whatever the format of the game, in 2020 is a very physical game, not just batting but fielding. 4-day cricket is mentally tiring, and I think if you're physically fit, you're more likely to be mentally fit. Again, the game has moved on. Fitness trainers play a much bigger part now. Every county has a full-time fitness trainer. All the players have their own personal programs, and they take the diet and the fitness side very, very seriously. It's a professional sport now. I think the old days of 5 pints a night and just turn up and play have gone. People prepare properly, and they do their homework on opposition, and they certainly take the fitness. That's very important.
Equipment-wise, is there anything important when choosing equipment for batting?
There's no doubt the most important thing for a batter is the bat. I mean, it is your tool of your trade, and just like a violinist would want a top violin, I think a batter's got to get the right bat. It's got to be a bat that is light enough that you can control with the front side of the body. That basically is what creates the shape of your shots, and it's not about weight. It's not about having a heavy bat to hit a long ball. All you get if you have a heavy bat is actually poor technique, and you're less likely to be able to get the ball where you want it with the power that you want it. So generally go on the lighter side, and something you can control with your top hand and your front side. I do see a lot of young players with bats that are too heavy.